Footballers today are just celebrities. They complain about everything while making millions. But what do they actually do for us? Sure, they entertain, but let's be real. Football isn't as exciting as it used to be. But what if I told you about a player who wasn't just fun to watch, not just clutch in the biggest games, but a guy who literally saved his country from falling apart? A country he didn't even spend that much time in, because money was tight. And when he was just 5 years old, his parents sent him to France to live with his uncle, Michael Drogba, a pro footballer. Imagine being a kid, ripped away from your family, thrown into a new country where you didn't fit in. Drogba missed home, struggled to adapt, and even moved back to Ivory Coast for a bit, before returning to France at 15 to chase his dream. It wasn't easy, it wasn't glamorous, but it was here, in the middle of all that struggle, that Drogba started building the toughness that would make him a legend. Drogba signed his first pro contract with Le Mans, a small club in France's second division. But things didn't go smoothly. Injuries kept pulling him back, and for a while, it looked like his career might never take off. Then, in the 2001-2002 season, something changed. He scored 12 goals in 34 games, and suddenly, people started noticing. And he was 23 at this point. Some 23-year-olds right now are considered washed for 6 million euros. And that's when everything changed. He scored 32 goals in all competitions, including 5 in the Champions League. He led Marseille to the UEFA Cup final and won Ligue 1 Player of the Year. But Marseille was just a warm-up. The real show was about to begin.
Abramovich was asking me, who do you want for the striker? All the big names in Europe at that time. I told Drogba. And who is he? Where is he playing? Mr. Abramovich, pay and don't speak. And Didier was an iconic player for Chelsea, for the Premier League.
When Chelsea offered £24 million for Drogba in 2004, Marseille couldn't say no. And from day one, Drogba was a monster. In his first season, he scored 16 goals, helping Chelsea to win their first league title in 50 years. By 2006-2007, he was unstoppable. He won the Premier League Golden Boot with 20 goals and became the guy you could count on in the biggest moments. But it wasn't just about goals, it was about trophies. Drogba helped Chelsea win 3 Premier League titles, 4 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, and 2 Community Shields. But what made him special? He wasn't just your average striker. He was a big game player. He scored in 4 different FA Cup finals, winning every single one. When Chelsea needed a leader, even though they had plenty of them, he still stepped up. When they needed a goal, he delivered. And in 2012, he gave them the biggest gift of all. Chelsea had been chasing the Champions League for years. They even reached the final in 2008 and lost on penalties in a terrible way.
Which is your favourite trophy that you've won?
I think the Champions League. The Champions League is the best. The best feeling, especially the way we won it. When we lost it against
I was going to say that, you lost against us.
But in 2012, after sacking the manager mid-season, they felt like this was their chance. But Bayern Munich stood in their way. In their own stadium, Chelsea were down 1-0 in the 88th minute. Then, Drogba rose above everyone and powered a header into the net. Extra time, then penalties, and guess who stepped up for the final kick? Drogba. One last moment of magic, one final strike, and Chelsea were champions of Europe. That was his last game for the club, and it was the ultimate fairy tale ending to his Chelsea spell. Drogba's international career was not as simple as the club one. It wasn't about just score goals, it was about uniting a nation. He made his debut for Ivory Coast in 2002, and from the start, it was clear he was playing for something bigger than himself. And in 2006, Drogba led Ivory Coast to their first ever World Cup. But this wasn't just a football achievement. It was a moment that changed history. At the time, Ivory Coast was in the middle of a brutal civil war. The country was divided, and people were suffering. But when Drogba and his teammates qualified for the World Cup, something incredible happened. During a live TV interview, Drogba made an emotional plea for peace. He asked both sides of the conflict to lay down their weapons.
Vous nous avez promis que cette fête allait rassembler le peuple. Aujourd'hui, on vous demande, s'il vous plaît, on se met à genoux. Pardonnez. 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 Le seul pays de l'Afrique qui a toutes ses richesses ne peut pas sombrer dans la guerre comme ça. S'il vous plaît, déposez tous les armes. Faites les élections, organisez les élections et tout ira du mieux. On veut s'amuser. Arrêtez vos fusils là. On veut s'amuser. Arrêtez vos fusils là.
A temporary ceasefire was declared, and for the first time in years, there was hope. Drogba said later that when we qualified for the World Cup, I realized football could bring us together. Over his international career, he scored 65 goals in 105 appearances, led the team to 2 World Cups and multiple Africa Cup of Nations tournaments. Even in moments of defeat, Drogba's leadership shone through. He was more than a captain. He was a symbol of hope. Later, Drogba kept doing his thing. He played in China, Turkey, and even the MLS, scoring goals and winning hearts everywhere he went. And when Jose Mourinho went back to Chelsea, he had to bring back Drogba too. And they won another Premier League title. Well, at the end of the story, Drogba was a leader and a peacemaker, and a guy who proved that sports can change the world, from the streets of Abidjan to the biggest stages in football. His story is about more than just goals and trophies. It's about heart, resilience, and the power one person could make. See you next time.